We're sharing 150 years of our state's most interesting history on our Discovering Nevada series. One of the state's most notorious killers was never caught. Queho is the name of the Native American who terrified local cities for 3 decades, but was never captured or caught. So in 2001, the I-Team's George Knapp visited the spot where his remains are found, and George is here to tell us about Queho's murderous tale.
Yeah, this is a heck of a story here. Queho is one of the state's most mysterious and terrifying figures. He was blamed for as many as 23 murders and was the target of a decades-long manhunt by various posses. The mystery was solved in 1940 when his mummified remains were found in a cave near the lake. To the relief and joy of the masses, the location of the cave has been kept pretty much a secret even now, but we jumped at the chance to make that hike back in 2001.
Very safe in here, solid rock.
This is not the cave where Queho's remains were found. This is the old Chichaticup mine in the middle of what used to be a wild western mining camp known as El Dorado Canyon. It was during the camp's peak that the legend of Queho blossomed, and not only because of the 23 people he supposedly killed.
The miner was working and Queho come in about his lunchtime, and the guy shared a sandwich that he had with Queho, and he thought for sure Queho was going to kill him. He knew it was Queho, and Queho offered to share some of Queho's pack rat with the guy, and the guy didn't, you know, it must have been pretty hard to say no because you don't want to offend him. Sure. And Queho, but Queho left him alone and left.
For almost 30 years, lawmen and bounty hunters combed the rocky crags along the Colorado in search of Queho, inspired by a then whopping reward of $3,000.
Men were only making $4 a day, so I mean, they would send 2 or 3 posses were out after him for like 2 to 3 months, and they could still never catch him.
February 1940, 2 prospectors followed a rough rock trail and stumbled upon the entrance to a hidden cave. Inside, they found the mummified remains of Queho. Lawmen were notified. Pictures were taken with the skeleton, and the story was front-page news even in Los Angeles. The location of the cave is known to the Park Service and to some locals, but has never been videotaped because of concerns about vandalism.
If they really think that they want to see it, I'll give them directions.
Our trek to Queho's cave begins at Willow Beach. By boat, we travel downriver past colorful locals, then glide into a narrow inlet surrounded by a thicket of sinister thorns.
You really can't get a patrol boat in here.
Then the fun begins, a hardy march through the thickets, up into the rocks, and finally almost straight up.
Those prospectors that found the body probably came up the way we did, basically.
After a short breather and another climb, we found the cave. Inside, nothing remains of its former inhabitant. But Queho certainly picked a spot with a view, one that allowed him to see any posses heading his way. The skeleton showed his was a harsh existence, and his meager possessions, weapons, some food, backed that up. Some of those possessions, including the worst pair of shoes you've ever seen, along with a handmade arrow, are now held at the Nevada State Museum in Lorenzi Park. Lawmen never caught Queho, so how did he die?
Starvation. That was one of the theories they had. Starvation, injury, or
snake bite.
Snake bite.
As far as anyone knows, we are the first TV crew to visit Queho's cave, and considering what it took to get up here, we may be the last for a while.
The climb was nothing compared to what happened with Queho's remains. First, there was a mad scramble with several claims of ownership. The bones sat in a funeral home for 3 years before the Elks Club purchased them and put them on display during the annual El Dorado celebration in Las Vegas. Once they were even shown riding in the back of a convertible during a parade. Finally, a lawyer bought them for $100 and finally buried them in cement out in the Pahrump Valley in a spot with a pretty good view. Despite his alleged crimes, Queho inspires grudging respect.
He's actually the last renegade Indian. He's not like an Indian that lives in the white man's town and just kills people from time to time. He still lives out here his whole life.
It's a tough guy. You can check out the story about Queho and general directions to the cave if you want to take that trip yourself. It's a pretty tough climb. It's on our 8newsnow.com, and you can click on the Discover Nevada banner. We will keep adding a new story or two about our state's history here at 4 o'clock as well on the website every Thursday.
So they think he's responsible for 23 killings.
He got blamed for all kinds of stuff. You know, anybody died, they blamed it on Queho. He was kind of the all-purpose boogeyman of the time.
Yeah, and he would come down out of his cave. How far how close was the nearest civilization to his
Well,
cave?
you know, he's blamed for stealing stuff from the dam. Some of the things they found in his cave were from the construction of the Hoover Dam. So he was still around in the 1930s. I mean, you know, that's a few miles from where he was staying. But he would roam far and wide. There's a story about him and Harry Reid's grandfather. He encountered Harry Reid's grandfather, I think, on the day that he supposedly killed 2 other people. He gave him a pass. Otherwise, somebody else would be our U.S. Senator.
What a uniquely Nevada tale.
It's a great story.
Thanks, George.